Hi, TheSuffolkRam from Rand Nerds. Welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series Trial Episode 3, Orphan 55. If there's maybe some minor spoilers ahead, so if you're spoiled, please turn off now. So, after Doctor, we start with the Doctor and gang dealing with the aftermath of some unspecified and undocumented adventure. Maybe sometime book will come at a later date. And Graham has been collecting together some coupons, which he promptly puts together and which teleport the whole of them to Tranquillity Spa. Like basically a futuristic, beautiful spa place type nice holiday things. And within about seemingly 5 minutes in the game there, all hell breaks loose. A creature trying to break in, and it's revealed that training spa isn't quite what it looks up to be. And the episode becomes your normal sort of trying to escape type episodes, which usually episodes I do quite like. I like the sort of people having to sort of work their way out and escape and how to get all the situations go against them, how do they get out. But honestly, I didn't think very much of this episode. My issue with it is numerous. First of all, it moves very quickly. The pacing is actually, it feels like pacing for like a two-parter. It's so fast, it's constantly changing scene and jumping so much. They'll randomly come across a character who's, how'd you get here? Oh, I was thrown here. And just, it feels like they've just had to throw it in just to get it through. Really unhappy with how fast it moves. It's also just frozen plot points here, then everywhere. All of a sudden they'll just reveal something new and something proper, which doesn't feel, there's not in any way telegraphed before it gets there. No sort of hints, but it's literally just like, oh, how do I make this a bit more dramatic? I know, I'll just make this plot point and so-and-so's going to reveal something about themselves. Oh, sorry for the Apple Watch. And it's going to throw people off. And it just doesn't gel very well. It just feels like the writer, how she's thrown it all together, hasn't really sort of thought the story through, and I almost feel like he's not actually, she's just written it in one, it feels like a first draft before it's been tightened up and so forth. And it also gets quite late on, very avaricious, which is something that I disliked about season 11, when they basically felt that they had to tell you, rather than criticise or make a point, they had to make the point really clear. They couldn't just say, through showing but not through show but don't tell type situation, which I know it's hard to do in TV series, but rather than sort of getting the idea across something is bad, they had to really ram it home and force it home and make a big speech at the end about what you got to do and how bad it is and how you've got to change things. And I was like, I get the message I get, and the message is a good message to try to pass, but it's done in such a hack-handed way, I really didn't like it. The characterisation is also very inconsistent. The characters in it seem to change personalities throughout. There's lots of like weird plot holes. A character disappears early on. He then comes back, but only in the voice, and then what happens to him is just told about off screen. Like, oh, what happened to him? Oh, it happened off screen. It's like almost like the actor had just like done his scenes today and gone home, and they think, oh shit, he's still got 10 more scenes to him. We'll just pretend that all happened off screen. So I have to say, really, really unimpressed this episode. So cast and crew. So the usual thing, Graham is being his usual, Bradley Walsh is being his usual slapstick, slightly stupid self at points, but he seems a bit more smart this one. He has a bit more going, a bit more switched on, which is a bit nice. He seemed to be a bit of an idiot in the last couple of episodes. He seemed a bit more switched on. Ryan starts immediately forming some weird relationship with somebody he's barely met, and they sort of try and sort of create a bit of chemistry between them. It doesn't really work. It feels very forced chemistry. It just feels very random. We've got other characters in there, and they're all just a little bit cookie cutter. There's like an engineer, and he's got his son, and the son is better than an engineer than he is, because that's just like a trope as old as time. Of course the son's better engineer than he is. He's been doing it for years and presumably he works fine by himself. His son comes along and is somehow better at him and doesn't keep things going. So this feels a bit weird. You've got Laura Fraser in here. She most probably will recognise other things such as Breaking Bad. And also, which I didn't realise, she was in a series called Neverwhere. She was actually the main character in a season of Neverwhere, which I watched a few years ago. I rewatched a few years ago, watched previously from the 1990s. Interestingly, she would have acted a lot against Peter Capaldi, who's also in Neverwhere. It's an urban fantasy drama. If you like sort of urban fantasy, between like Neil Gaiman and stuff, he wrote it. Check it out. But all the other sort of characters in actors in it just all nothing really stands out. I mean, her is a good characterisation. Her character seems to flip between doing the right thing to being a corporate, I'm only interested in money. It just flips back and forth and feels very inconsistent and strange. Frankly, it's just like I just thought the writer doesn't know what he's doing, so he mucks up all the characters and so forth. It's just not brilliantly done, if I'm honest. So on to production. So special effects wise, okay. There's one thing, some of the effects are quite good. So the monsters themselves are a mixture of practical and CGI, and the practical part, actually, I like when they do proper, well done practical monsters. Even if you know it's someone in a suit, I like that because it feels more real than CGI does. I'm not a great fan of CGI in TV films. It should be used to enhance, not to replace. And, having this character in the film, so the characters, actual physical characters, actually works quite well, and they do quite a nice job. There is another character in it you meet right at the start called -3, which is, I don't know what they're thinking of. It looks like a reject from a furry convention. It is, frankly, actually, the costume looks awful. It's like this character, she's got big sort of fur, like 80s style hair, and the most unconvincing fake tail that I've ever seen. And they even highlight it. I like your tail. It's like the worst tail I've ever seen. Like, what were they thinking when they came with that? It looked absolutely awful. But other than that, the other parts, CGI parts, actually look half decent. The battered landscape of the planet they're on, when they actually go outside the dome and see where they are, looks half decent, to be honest with you. Looks quite nice. Directed by Lee Harvey Jones, who directed last week's episode, which I really enjoyed and thought, but feels very rushed. Whether that's the script he had was a bit rushed, he had to force it all in, and you get feels that comes through and so forth, and it feels very strange and not quite showing his ability. But then you can only work with what you got, and you can only polish the turd so much, and if he's got a crap script, then he's going to have a crap output. Written by Ed Heim, who also wrote It Takes You Away, which was the episode set in that Norwegian sort of chalet type place back in season 11, where they go sort of through a mirror and in some more weird middle place, and there's like another universe that comes in the form of a frog. It's a very weird. That was weird, but I liked it because it's very, very Douglas Adams. I liked it because it was quite weird and strange. It didn't get good right. It didn't get brilliant reviews. It wasn't a great episode, but I liked it because it was weird and different. And this one, he's tried to obviously make it a little bit more sort of by the book, but he's absolutely really, really mucks it up. Not such a good result of this one, unfortunately. Hopefully I see too much more of him or at least he can change back to how he was. So final thoughts, a very. I don't want to say it's terrible. I mean, it's not going to be in my top 10 of episodes, that's for definite. Overall, I think a fairly poor episode. There's been a lot worse. It's trying to get a point across, but rather it gets a point across in a blunt way, not in a subtle way, or trying to sort of make an idea. It really tries to hammer home the point, and that just doesn't work. The pacing is awful. Characterization is inconsistent. It's just awful. It's just pretty bad all round, if I'm absolutely honest. So not impressed this episode. So thank you very much for watching. I've been TheSuffolkRam. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have, would you please consider subscribing to the channel, or maybe even like this video. You can join. We often do stuff on here. We tend to do mainly podcasts. Our next one is due Saturday, where we discuss the games we've been playing and things we've been seeing on TV and films and so forth, and we talk about it. So hope you come join us for that. If you enjoyed this review, please come back next week and check out my review of the next episode, where the Doctor and the gang looks like going to meet Nikola Tesla and also Thomas Edison. All fun and games, and we'll see who wins. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the future.